Welcome to the Rotunda Hospital. I'm Anne O'Byrne. I'm Head Librarian and Archivist with the Rotunda. And it's my pleasure today to introduce you to the Rotunda, to our founder, Dr Bartholomew Mosse particularly, and to three outstanding medical women of the Rotunda. The Rotunda Hospital, as we know it today, owes its existence to the vision, drive, energy, philanthropy, and sheer heroism of one extraordinary man, Dr Bartholomew Mosse, one of 18th century's most remarkable men. Without doubt, his legacy to women is the creation of the Rotunda Lying-in Hospital, which was opened in 1757. It remains the first purpose-built maternity hospital in the world. To properly appreciate the revolutionary scale of Mosse's achievements, his life's work must be understood in the context of the prevailing social conditions of life in 18th century Dublin. There was rapid growth and influx of post-famine refugees to the city. Housing conditions were damp, overcrowded, and rampant with disease. Large numbers of women died in labour, and infant mortality was very high. Mosse's desire to build a new maternity hospital is attributed to the loss of his first wife and son in childbirth. In addition to his role as surgeon, Mosse became a man midwife, thereby elevating the practice of midwifery and advancing midwifery training. His plans supported the well-being of mother and baby, regardless of rank or social status. Mosse created an institution where babies could be safely delivered, alleviated the suffering of the city's poor and vulnerable expectant mothers by providing them not only with medical assistance, but basic food, shelter, and an enhanced chance of survival. In 2016, the Rotunda Hospital hosted an exhibition called Birth of a Nation to coincide with 1916 centenary. It was my pleasure as archivist to oversee this exhibition, and it ran for 1 month in March 2016. The exhibition honoured 5 key medical women of the Rotunda in 1916. These were Bridget Lyons Thornton, Kathleen Lynn, Dorothy Stopford Price, Albinia Broderick, and Mary O'Shea. Now, you may not know every name on this list, you will know some. Obviously, Kathleen Lynn is quite well known to us. Today, I would briefly introduce you to 3 of these women. And if you want to refer to the lives of the other women, please go to our Rotunda website under History and view the Birth of a Nation exhibition there. Let's put these women in context first. 1916 and mothers and babies at the Rotunda. It was not just fighting that claimed lives in Easter week 1916. It is documented that one mother died of edema, that is a buildup of pus in the lungs. This was a consequence of malnutrition, squalid conditions, and these are where these women lived. There were 15 maternal deaths in the Rotunda in 1916, which amounts to 500 per 100,000. Today, it is 10 per 100,000. Access to medical care was limited to the larger parts of the country, and even those who were fortunate to have access were subject to infection and hemorrhage after birth. Let's remember, there were no antibiotics, there were no blood transfusions. Infant mortality was also high. There were 160 deaths per 1,000 births. Today, it is 3 per 1,000 births. There was poor sanitation, inadequate waste disposal, and increased infection rates. Midwives were scarce and poorly paid. To combat this, the Rotunda commenced a district service where medical staff attended women in their homes. It is within this context that I would like to introduce you to three of our medical women. The first of these is Dorothy Stopford Price. Dorothy was born to an Anglo-Irish ascendancy family. Her maternal grandfather was Dr Every Kennedy, a previous master of the Rotunda. He was master from 1833 to 1840. Dorothy studied medicine in Trinity College. Here she was only one of two female students in her class group. She worked in the Rotunda and she worked in the district service as part of her medical training. It is reported that she could be seen at any moment of the day or night emerging from the district with a small medical bag. She became a paediatrician working with her colleague, Dr Robert Collis. She undoubtedly saved many women through her practice and championed BCG vaccination in Ireland. It's sad to say, like other female doctors, these efforts were never fully recognised by their peers. Let's move to Albinia Broderick. Albinia undertook her midwifery training in the Rotunda in 1905. She had previously qualified as a nurse in the UK. She was honorary. Her father was the 8th Viscount Middleton of County Cork. This was not what Albina was. Her reaction to poverty of the masses resulted in articles that she wrote on the plight of the poor. She first came to Ireland from England in 1905, and she quickly joined the Gaelic League and Cumann na mBan. Her commitment was such to the Irish struggle that she changed her name to Gubnat ní Bhrúdar. Helen Maloney, the eminent historian, wrote, "The children born at Easter week were brought up in the Free State, if they survived, as highlighted by the work of doctors and nurses in this exhibition. Survival at birth was not a given. These children's first years were ones of war, the War of Independence and the Civil War that followed." My last eminent person that I would like to introduce to you is Mary O'Shea. Mary O'Shea isn't a medical doctor, but her role in 1916 as a medical personnel is very important. In 1916, Mary was simply 22 years old, and she had started her midwifery training in the Rotunda. She left a war zone in Normandy in France in 1914 after finishing her studies in England, and returned to Ireland. At this time, the British military occupied the Rotunda Hospital. Mary and her staff were warned to get on with their work and stay away from the windows. Mary's memoir was written by her in her own words. It is a memoir of the historic week in her life and that of her patients, and I hope to read it for you at close. After she had finished training, she worked in England before returning to her native Laois, where she became a district nurse and midwife. From 1935 to 1950, she delivered more than 2,000 babies while rendering care to their mothers. Another character, she was seen travelling by bike and worked well into her advanced years. I would like to acknowledge the Laois Heritage Trust for sharing Mary's memoir with us, and they hold copyright on this memoir. And I would ask you again to look for further information on our Birth of Nations Centenary exhibition on our website. And one further detail, if you have time, you should really look at the Irish Times Women's podcast, episode 25, which discusses the exhibition in light of today and 1916.